Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show, and always pleased when we can have some great art on our set, and we have exactly that today thanks to our friends at the Thomas Anthony Gallery. We have Dorsey McHugh here, who has traveled all the way in from Nashville, along with her representative, who is Susan Miller. Welcome, both of you, to the show.
Thank you.
Thrilled to have you here. I'm a big fan of Impressionism. I think it's probably one of my very favorite forms of art. I think it leaves just a little bit for the person looking at it to kind of fill in things, which I think is always a great way. But it also just evokes, I think, a little more emotion, I think, than a typical piece that's absolutely perfect lines and things. I think it doesn't leave much. So I'm thrilled to have you here, and I'm excited that you came so far.
Well, thank you. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you'll be at the Thomas Anthony Gallery tonight, which will be
That's right.
An awesome opportunity for people to meet you. We've got a few pieces with us here, but let's start by talking about this one that's right on the table right here. So tell me a little bit about this.
That is a painting I did from a photograph that I took last summer in Scotland. I went for 5 weeks and stayed, took photographs, and then came home and painted.
Do you typically like to do yours in a studio from a photo, or do you sometimes find yourself in the field, so to speak?
I have done plein air painting, but I prefer being in my studio because the way I paint is layer upon layer upon layer of colors.
Yeah, so much longer process.
Yes.
You'd be there for days.
Yeah, yeah.
And the weather would have to cooperate.
And the light would
Right.
keep changing.
Yeah, of course it would. But it's. I think that's it's such an interesting thing because you're using two forms of art at that point. Capturing that original image, which is not exactly easy. I think I'm a photographer. I think that's probably, to me, that's very difficult. But taking it past that point to this, wow, what a huge leap that is.
Well, and I use a palette knife only. I don't use a brush.
Oh, really? This is all from a knife?
Yes. I begin the image by mapping it out maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, and then everything is the knife.
And this is acrylic?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Excellent. And all done with the knife. That is amazing. Well, it explains the level of layering, too.
Yes.
Doesn't it? That's an interesting approach, and I love the thickness of the paint. Of course, this kind of makes you feel a little Van Gogh-like immediately with that, the thickness of the paint.
Yes, exactly. He didn't use a knife. He used a brush.
He was all brush, but he loved a lot of paint, didn't he?
Yeah, and color.
His poor brother, how he paid for all that paint, I'll never know. That's a lot. You have a brother paying for your paint?
Yes, Thomas.
There you go. That's awesome. What is your favorite thing to paint? Obviously, I get the impression that you like some of these older abilities, cottages and things. Is that something that just you have an affinity for?
I think what I have an affinity for ever since I was a small child is story. And I did not know I could use paint as a medium to tell a story, but it's the same thing that you were saying about I draw the viewer in because I want them to put their story in it too, so I use images that evoke stories from other people.
It does that for me, certainly. I can see the people living in this, I don't know what to call it, cottage, I think is the word that comes to my mind.
Yes.
But, my grandfather used to tell me that he wanted, in the world, the only thing he really wanted to be was a sheep herder. And for me, this is what this one does to me, I could see a sheep herder living in this home, and it's just, there's a nice big field out here that we can't see right in front of us. What a terrific little location.
Well, I grew up in South Dakota, and my father was a farmer and did raise sheep. And I have kind of an affinity for sheep, as you can probably tell.
Isn't that great? I love that. It makes me very happy, which brings us to this because I see them right here. Now, I will tell you that my grandfather, his plan was always to live in an Airstream trailer out in the middle of nowhere with sheep. I think it's kind of a little odd by itself, but nonetheless, it's kind of cool. But this is great because you did take that idea of storytelling from art, and you did exactly that. You put it right on paper with some stories to go with it.
Yes.
Pretty cool. Would you mind reading one or two of them for us, your favorites?
Not at all.
I'd love to hear something from it.
While she's finding that, one of the things I think is great about Dorsey's art is the universal, like we've met people from Peru, people from Europe, people from, here in the United States, and they all say, oh my gosh, that reminds me of where I grew up.
Right.
So there is this universal language of home. She paints the story of home.
And
really.
relationships.
And relationship.
And the adventures that happen.
Well, and I understand winterscapes too, are one that you're particularly fond of, which I think of no more favored place in my mind than a nice little cabin or a nice little cottage somewhere in the mountains with snow all around and a couple little animals making their way through. I don't know that there's a better atmosphere that I can come up with to just relax for a moment and take life in. It's pretty special.
Yeah, it's
And
really
that's something
magical
you do.
too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. I'm referring to the one behind my right shoulder here. It's just, that evokes that feeling to me in a big way. It's awesome.
I have kind of a wacky sense of humor because I put a scarf on the...
I noticed that. But you wonder if he got it off of a line or something and just kept it for the winter. That's really great.
Yes.
Well, tell us the name of this first.
This is called Romance.
Romance.
My father used to get tears in his eyes if I made him laugh. That's just how he was made. I loved those tears. They encouraged me to use my voice. The night sky used to freak me out. It fascinated me. But it made me, even when I was very young, aware of eternity. Meditating on the reality of our solar system being a tiny part of the universe turns me inside out. Looking in a mirror by holding another mirror to reflect its reflection of more mirrors, ad infinitum, has the same effect on me. There is only so much eternity our minds can hold. So instead, we make stars and moonlight and the night sky all symbols of romance. Love, real love, is another expression of eternity. When I get in this frame of mind, I feel like a child again. I feel like I just told my dad all these thoughts and he is tickled with me for thinking them.
Wow. I love that. My mind was going in so many different directions during your reading of that. What it fell back to, it was kind of interesting. I went several places. I went to what it's like, for me, if I were painting something, of how I would know how many stars to put, because there's just, you could put an infinite number on a painting, right? And I bet that's hard to come up with, like when to stop. It
is.
Right?
It's hard. It is. And in fact, I usually count them.
I bet you do.
I do, because I like odd numbers.
So where do you typically fall? Do you know? In the hundreds?
No, it's different sometimes. Sometimes I just like to have the moon.
Just as long as it ends in an odd number.
Yes, as long as there's an odd number.
That's sort of a painter's superstition going on here. I love this.
I think so. I do.
So where my story fell in my mind as you were reading that was something that I thought about this the other day. And I know people at home have had this feeling too, because our kids are so, I don't know, they're so confined to television sets and living rooms and things. Mm-hmm. You remember those days laying on the lawn with your best friend and just hanging out, looking up that gorgeous blue sky and occasionally a puffy cloud or a jet flying overhead way high, just silently overhead. That's where I was drawn to during your story. Just remembering that and thinking, gosh, I wish kids had a moment to lay down on the grass and have that moment again. And I don't know that they do as often. We've been so lucky and blessed to have those moments.
Right.
Yes.
Just kind of breathe it in. It reminds me of one. I don't know where we're at time-wise.
We're going to pick the other one? Yeah. We're going to pick Susan's favorite here.
Well, I don't know that it's my favorite. When you talked about the sky, it's called Breathe. You know which one I'm talking about? Breathe the Sky.
Mm-hmm.
So how has your trip been here to Utah so far? Have you had a good time?
Yes, we love coming here.
Oh, I'm glad.
It's been very nice.
And
And the weather is...
kind of ideal.
It's ideal. I'm not kidding you. At home when we left, it was 5 degrees. In Tennessee.
I know. It's a little off kilter this year, isn't it?
Yes.
People who've been here from other places are wondering why it's so nice here when they left. And if I'd had friends from Texas, they were up here for Sundance. Snow there. They get here and it's beautiful and sunny and warm.
We got out of the airplane
off kilter.
outside and we thought, it's warm.
Have you spent some time taking some photos here of things that you'll go back and paint?
I do. Yeah.
That must be a lot of fun.
Oh, it's loads of fun. Yeah.
Do you go out on your own, or do you typically go with someone when you're doing that?
We drive around. I, get somebody to
Yeah.
drive and stop and let me out.
Stop! This is perfect
Yes,
right here.
yes. And there are really nice homes here that make me make up a story in my own mind. So
That's awesome. We think we found it. All right.
Well, it's
Excellent.
talking about laying on a blanket and looking up at the night sky. That's what was reminding
why
me
don't
of
you
it.
read that
shall I
for
read
us?
it?
Yeah.
Okay. This one's called Anticipation. It would be It would be more than enough to simply lie on a blanket under the night sky, more than enough to know that this wondrous light show will begin any moment. I imagine a painter using lights across the sky as his medium. I imagine he is painting the music of a giant pipe organ. Thinking in this way makes me cry in the same way seeing Van Gogh's Little Peasant Girl did so many years ago. Anticipating more to come, always more. Patiently waiting for my own eyes to actually see what has been there all along.
Wow. I really like that. You know what I like best about this is so often when you go to a historical gallery and you look at some of the masters' work, there's always someone there to tell you what they were thinking and how they did it and their process and what was going on in their head. We actually have written proof right here for you, which is something pretty neat, because I always wonder, like, I don't think that's what Van Gogh was thinking, on any particular one when I'm listening to somebody.
Yeah.
This is great because we have a real insight into your heart right here.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Very, very neat.
And that's what we named our show, Following My Heart.
How apropos. I don't know that we could have done it any better than that. That's awesome.
So. We didn't plan
Like
it.
you knew.
Well, I want to thank both of you guys so much for being here, both of you ladies. This is awesome. Dorsey McHugh, we're looking so forward to seeing your work this evening at the Thomas Anthony Gallery. And thank you for bringing it in to show us. Lastly, if you wouldn't mind, the sheep with the scarf, what is this piece called?
What is the name of that?
It's called Someone Is Home.
Oh,
isn't it?
Someone
Is Home. Okay, makes sense. And missing his scarf, I might add.
Yes.
And then up above on our mantle there.
Oh, Susan. I don't
That
know.
one.
Well, I can name it. We just call it 5 Cottages.
Well, that would work.
I'm teasing. It's just beautiful.
It's from a photograph that I took in France.
Oh, wow. What a spectacular location. I think I saw it off of a train once on the way to Spain.
Yeah.
Just a beautiful
There we go,
spot
see?
right there. On the way to Spain. Dorsey McHugh, thank you so very much for being here.
Thank
Thank you so much for bringing her.
Thank you.
to us.
Yeah, she's fun to
Certainly
bring.
enjoy it. We'll look forward to meeting you tonight. So you have your
Okay.
opportunity. Thomas Anthony Gallery from 5 to 8 p.m. this evening. All right, we will come back with more right here on the Mountain Morning Show after these commercials.